It started a long time ago, back around 2008, when we decided we wanted to work together on an American Indian project that we titled Between Worlds.
We traveled around in Arizona and the White Mountains area for almost a month, recording and collecting material. Edgar Perry is a legend who spent his whole life contributing to an increased understanding and preservation of the Apache traditions. He was our most important source for us in these projects. And we got to record him and his musicians. They performed their authentic Apache chants together with the traditional water drums. Amazing. These songs became the main foundations of our work. This was like a deep dive into the historic roots in their culture. And Edgar also showed us many of the sacred places and sites of the Eagle clan tribe.
We had permission to go on the reservation to various areas and locations and record some of the nature sounds, which we did. We have meadowlarks, cicadas, the crickets, different birds, other ambient outdoor sounds. And while we were there recording those things, we discovered on the reservation a place called Kinishba. The Hopi tradition calls it Mavpovi, or place of abundant snakeweed, and the Apache call it brown house. A couple of years ago, I reached out to Erik because I wanted to find out if he would like to continue that journey of exploration from the standpoint of what that place was. I've been drawn to it for years, and I've been back many, many times.
We had a lot of recordings that we did not use back then, and a lot of great unused material. So we both felt that there were aspects of this that we wanted to explore further, and we decided to go on that journey again. It turned out to be clear that time itself had done a great job for us, because we really went into even deeper landscapes this time. It all started with me composing and laying down the foundations of all the tracks in my studio here in Norway. I arranged some of the Apache chants, created some rhythmic ideas, added small melodic themes and atmospheres, which I then sent to Deborah for her to add her voice, percussion, etc. So I just sent her the files with no comments or suggestions.
And then I transferred it into my studio computer and listened to those particular, pieces. Erik also created some ambient textures that he thought would fit that. And then he was waiting for me to add percussion, drums. I do a lot of Taos drums. And he wanted me to do vocals this time, because he said what would be great would be if you could add your voice to the chants that they're doing and somehow create bringing the past into the present and marrying them together so that it would sound like we had just done this. It was kind of an exciting challenge for me, and I was a little worried about doing that because we wanted to maintain the authenticity of all of the original recordings and not do anything against them. So I was challenged with being able to do that here in my studio.
It's a fragile thing to do this kind of work. You have to have the knowledge and do a lot of research, and also actually have the skill to pretend that you actually physically and mentally are present in those places where this music is supposed to have its origin. You have to have that kind of imagination all the time in the creation process, I think.
So I listened to the recordings, and then I just had to shut myself in here, and I had to travel back in time to the reservation so I would imagine what it would be like to be one of the maidens on the reservation. What if I was out in the field picking corn or harvesting? Or what if I was exploring the forest? Or what if I was engaged in a ceremony of some sort? So I had to literally go there. It was quite a process for me.
We chose the title Kinishba because this time we wanted to dive even deeper and wider, and to do something even more timeless, something that also could describe the energy of the prehistoric American Southwest cultures. Kinishba is a ruin not far from Fort Apache in Arizona. It's an abandoned historic place with brick house ruins from the 15th century. It's considered to be part of the historical lineage of both the Hopi and Zuni cultures. So, long before the arrival of the Apache tribes, actually.
One of the tracks that stood out for me, one of the first ones I worked on, we titled it Burial Ground. To come up with the titles for these tracks took quite some time because I wanted to honor the culture itself by what would they call this song if they wanted to share about what the song would be about. I wanted to honor that, the sacredness of a burial ground. And if there was a warrior who had been laid to rest in that area and he wanted to reach out to his people, what would he want to say to them? And so that's where the vocal lines came for that song.
There are many albums in the Native American genre, often music made the easy way, actually. Just using found and pre-recorded samples from libraries with no real connection with this culture at all. Our project is different. Deborah and I actually went to meet the people. We got connected and actually got to know them very well, recorded them at their place, incorporated everything into a new unit of authentic expressions. All the acoustic and ambient sounds you hear on the album is recorded by us at the various locations in Arizona. Sounds that we carefully selected to add authenticity and realness to the project.
Except for the synthesizers that were used for the electronic part, all of the other on-site recordings were done right there on the reservation, the vocals, everything, and except for my vocals, which I recorded here in the studio, gave that different aspect to it. And Erik did the same thing at his end. He actually used some of the original drum recordings that I recorded on site in Arizona for some of the things that he sent me, and then I added to it. It was quite a process. It took us a couple of years to do it because each song had to be rendered in a certain way. Some of the words that I ended up writing in the phrases that are used in the songs throughout, like Life Spiral, I was using words from Hopi and Navajo also, as well as Apache, using those phrases, and I combined them. The language is universal if you're doing music, and making all of them become one, it seemed so important at the time to be able to utilize different phrases from the different groups so that they could be one voice to represent all Native American peoples or all American Indian peoples.
We asked ourselves before we started to work on the album, why do we want to do this? Authenticity is very important to us when doing an album like this. Building on traditions, but at the same time we wanted to incorporate and melt in elements that are very new and also very relevant today.
Working with other artists is something I absolutely love. And Erik and I, this was our second project, and it was absolutely delightful working on it. It was a very exciting time. The more we got into it, the more excited we got, because we're like, oh, we're bringing back to life these recordings that didn't get used all those years ago. But it was also a great way to honor the culture of the Apache Nation. Not only them, but all other American Indian cultures.
A listener recently called our album for musical archaeology, which I think is actually a good description for our work. But of course, first of all, this is music that we hope everyone will enjoy, even if you're not familiar with the native cultures in America. And by listening, you hopefully will get interested and want to explore more. And perhaps also gain a further understanding and acceptance of native cultures.
The profound insights and the deep experiences are always going to be a part of us now, melding into these enduring legacies. And how do you capture a history of a people? You record it. You either have oral histories or it's messages and stories that are handed down from generation to generation. And sure, the stories are going to alter a little bit, because when people tell stories, they'll tell it in their own words or their own way. But if you can capture some of that essence, some of that story, some of the richness and the depth of that with a musical expression, that it simply enhances that story.
We are very proud of this album. By this, we want to honor the Apaches and the traditions of the American Indian and their culture. I think it's very important today in these times where there seems to become more and more equal monocultures everywhere, and the old ways of living will disappear together with the history and traditions.
It's an enduring legacy, and I think that long after we're gone, that music is going to be around for them to share with their own people and their own families. And to me, I think that was one of the most important things that we could have done. And it's a gift to be able to share that with them. And it's a gift to be able to present those recordings to any listener out there who really loves that part of history and culture.